This episode of the Coarse Grind Podcast has been brought to you by Central Sports and Graphics Incorporated, family-owned and operated screen printing and embroidery business located in a historic storefront on Old Berwick Road in the heart of Espy. They've been doing screen printing for over 20 years. They have high-quality product at a low price. Be sure to check them out. Central Sports and Graphics Incorporated, 570-784-1212. Now, on to the show.
Hi, this is David Viana, and you're listening to Shawn Rosler at the Coarse Grind Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is episode number 122 of the Coarse Grind Podcast. With you as always this evening, host creator Shawn Rosler. How is everyone doing tonight? You know, I'm not sure if it's the turning 100 episodes or that we're coming up on my birthday. I don't know. Maybe it's even a side effect of this COVID-19 hysteria. But I've been really feeling nostalgic lately, like a lot. And you know, the few of you, hi Mom, who listen to the show on the regular might have noticed that that's kind of where I've been going. But, you know, I've been going there, but hesitantly. And I wanted to take a chance to not only go back, but to go way back. And we're talking single-digit style way back. We're talking episode 3. I'll give you guys a minute to go ahead and Google that or look it up on YouTube or go out to the page and look it up. And anyway, when I hit up tonight's guest about doing the show again after 5 long years, she was, of course, as I kind of expected, awesome about it and is coming up with some incredible updates of her own. To bring you up to speed, those of you who weren't with us in the single digits, here we go. Tonight's guest is a native Chicagoan who is always into not only food, but awesome influences one might not necessarily expect, such as punk, metal, and pro wrestling. Again, if we're taking the food fascination at face value. She marries things I, in my admitted ignorance, would have never thought compatible. Again, like vegan and baking. And does it with a Flash-style panache and edge that are incomparable by any of her peers. By far and away, she's one of the most notable food personas I've ever had the pleasure of following. And I'm in good company because she's appeared locally on WTTW Chicago, as well as on the Cooking Channel and Food Network. Author, baker, and someone who just truly doesn't give a shit about your coupons or gluten-free pancake mixes. That's taken directly, folks, by the way. I have to cite myself from the original intro. I paraphrased, but there you go. There you have it. But that's from 5 years ago. Edited and condensed, mind you, but taken from her intro way back. Say it with me, kids. I wonder what she's been up to since she dropped the bomb on me that Oreos are vegan. I'm still reeling from that one, but I understand there might be some controversy around that. More to come. Let's find out. Ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between my guest this evening, the OG behind BaconDestroy.com and Director of Marketing for Upton's Naturals, Natalie Slater. Natalie, how the hell have you been these 5 long years?
Well, from the sounds of that intro, I've been very impressive.
Well, that goes without saying. I have to say, and I have to fanboy, because I'm damn near certain I didn't fanboy so hard when it was early on, because I didn't know what the hell to do. Some might say ass from elbow. I didn't know the difference. But now I feel the need to be just upfront. Like, I was freaking out when I'm like, dude, I'm talking to Natalie from Bacon Destroy. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I literally had the same, butterflies early in the day. I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting to talk to Natalie again. So, it hasn't gone away, because you truly embody something unique in culinary. And, 120 episodes plus, I gotta say, you truly are, not only unique in all the best possible ways, but a pioneer in your field. And to find out that not only have you been doing what you've done, but you're doing new things, there's a little bit of foreshadowing, kids, is really exciting. So I cannot thank you enough. I know you're busy, but I'm really looking forward to digging back in, catching people up with who Natalie Slater is and what you're up to these days. So thanks again for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I can't believe it's been 5 years.
I know, right? I kind of use my kids as the measuring stick of how long time's been.
Sure.
And I was changing, I believe, size 1 diapers, and now I've got a kindergartner. So
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And your guy gets bigger and bigger I mean, they always do that. And I remember parents saying shit about that. Like, oh, aren't you so big? And being like pissed off by it. And yet here I am doing the same thing. So there you go.
Yeah. I mean, mine towers over me now by a good 5 inches. And, I mean, parents are pretty corny, but a lot of what they say turns out to be pretty accurate once you become one yourself.
Totally does. So, but we could talk about kids all night. Let's talk about Natalie. Let's talk about what you've been doing and where you are going. Folks new to the show, folks with terrible short-term memories like yours truly, starters, mains, and after starters. We're going to talk about where the guest in question came from. Look, we're not going to spend a whole lot of time here. If you want to know the backstory, go back, check out episode 3 and listen in. It really gives the whole backstory, but we'll give a summation here just to catch everybody up with the incomparable Natalie Slater. From there, we'll talk about mains, we'll talk about present day, what she's up to, what she's been up to, what she's going to be up to, and then finally, afters, a little bit more irreverent, a little bit more off the cuff. And I'll admit, I've run out of some heavy lifting tracks, so I'm hoping that your musical inspiration will inspire me there with one of the after questions.
Oh, okay.
So without further ado, for everyone who missed you the first time 5 years ago, Natalie Slater, tell me about where and what you grew up eating.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm Midwestern through and through. So, we have a joke kind of in my friend circle about Midwestern mom tacos, which is hard shell taco, mildly seasoned ground beef, shredded lettuce, shredded cheese, maybe some tomatoes if your family was fancy.
Oh, it sounds crazy.
Yeah. So, I grew up eating pretty typical, like, Midwestern family food. My mom worked, and so it was like whatever she could kind of throw in a crock pot and was ready when we got home. So all that stuff is, is comforting to me now, and even like 5 years later, it's pretty wild, like the things I can get my hands on now to recreate that stuff, but vegan, that even 5 years ago was hard to come by. So yeah, I grew up eating like good old Midwestern comfort food, corn that my grandpa would like steal out of cornfields from the neighboring farms.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so, like, there's something interesting that I don't get to do with a lot of guests. So, if you'll indulge me for a minute, you embrace two separate aspects of life. Which, believe it or not, if you saw me, I don't know if you believe it or not, but I knew about the straight edge hardcore scene when I was in high school. I wasn't necessarily in it, but I knew what it was. And then veganism, I was coming into. A lot of folks listening to the show might have a question mark around one or two of those lifestyles. So just to level set, can we get the Natalie Slater dictionary definition of both straight edge or edge and vegan?
Yeah, they're pretty straightforward. And when you put them together, if you're not familiar with kind of how they go hand in hand, it paints a picture of an extremely boring person. But I promise that that's not true. So straight edge is somebody who is, the easiest way I can explain it is sober by choice. So somebody who doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, doesn't do drugs, on purpose. Like, that's a lifestyle choice. Sure. I don't do those things.
Yeah. Now, quick question, because I've known people who were edge and caffeine was in that mix too. Is that included, or is that kind of one of those? Like,
yeah, I mean, okay. I would say in general, like, there are, I don't know anymore if there are hardliners necessarily. When I was coming up, there were people who included caffeine in that, included like, wouldn't even eat like chocolate because it has caffeine. And, like, there are people that like really took it like super far. But I would say if you're talking the most, like your average straight edge person, like they maybe they don't drink caffeine for their own reason, but they definitely don't include it kind of in the whole like set of rules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because again, you're in high school, you hear about these things, and then of course things get blown out. And like as you grow up, you hear glimmers of these, like, oh yeah, we're going to see, Minor Threat or some shit like that, and yeah, the straight edges were there, and like a lot of the stories I get, like, oh man, yeah, they're like the gang faction, they're scary, and I'm like, but wait a minute, they're just choosing not to do something. How is that? All right, whatever, dude, you do you. That's fine. So
I think, probably this is true of any trend, really, if you were to dive in, but I definitely find that straight edge is on kind of like a 10-year life cycle. So it kind of came up in the 80s.
Yep.
When it came back in the 90s is when I found out about it, when I was a teenager. Then it kind of went dormant. Then it kind of came back in the early 2000s, and there were bands like Have Heart and I don't know, like others that I was already too old for at that point that kind of like brought it back. And then it kind of was like quiet again, and now it's 2020, and there's like it's a whole. Not only is it kind of catching on with young people again, but older people are kind of like taking pride in it again and claiming it. Maybe when they like didn't claim it for years because it wasn't really anything anybody cared about, or a lot of people also are kind of approaching it from different angles. Like there are people who maybe had addiction problems and recovered and claim, like became straight edge like later in their lives. So, but I think it honestly, I mean, in my own lifetime, it's come and gone 3 times, like as something that people were kind of into, not into. And, so and honestly, I think veganism has a similar lifespan, and I guess just to give a quick definition of what a vegan is, it's a person who doesn't eat any products that come from an animal, doesn't wear any products that come from an animal. Basically, we just leave them alone. So no dairy, no eggs, no meat, no leather, no wool. Like I don't use any cosmetics with animal products in them. It's really rooted in, kind of compassion for animals. So that's the easiest way I can explain it. And I've seen a similar pattern happen with veganism, where it kind of, I remember in the 90s, it was like everybody I knew that was my age, that was like in college at the time, was into it. And then it kind of got quiet again. And like, obviously now it's like, you can't go to the grocery store without seeing the word vegan like printed on packages of food. So I'm not sure if this is the one that will stick around or if we'll see it kind of get quiet again too. But
yeah, because that's the interesting point. Actually, when I told my wife I was catching back up with you, she's like, oh yeah, that'll be cool because veganism as a lifestyle has become almost an environmental cause, on top of being a dietary and moralistic one. Right. We talk, and then you've got the beef farmer saying, oh, it's bullshit, the cows don't, blah, 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 blah. I don't know. I just think in general, like, it makes sense more now than ever. And I don't know, maybe I'm like those straight edges who are coming into it late in life and going, yeah, man, it makes sense. I thought about it early on. I just didn't catch the wave that time, and now is when I catch it. It just makes a lot of sense in a lot of different ways. I still enjoy meat, but I have to say, I probably more often now than ever before will lean vegetarian, and at times vegan, because vegan cooking, baking, food in general has gotten, I feel, exponentially smarter. And I'd love to know, if you think that's the case, and if so, how the hell did that happen?
Yeah, well, I would say, if I can put on my marketing hat right now, I'll tell you that
the following message has been brought to you by Upton's Naturals. Upton's Naturals.
It is flexitarians that are driving this market right now. So it is people like you who don't adhere strictly to a vegan or vegetarian diet.
Wait a minute, what was that? Flexitarians?
Flexitarian.
Oh, that's so sweet. That's awesome.
Yeah, so, that's kind of a catch-all word to describe, because, like, nobody's a carnivore. Like, tigers are carnivores. Dinosaurs were carnivores, but no human person only eats meat, which is what a carnivore does.
Sure.
And so, most people are omnivores, right? So their diet consists of meat and dairy and vegetables and fruits and grains, whatever. But a flexitarian is sort of an omnivore who incorporates more plant-based foods on a regular basis than your typical omnivore. So whether it's somebody who's doing Meatless Monday or somebody who, is just kind of 50% of the time they're opting for a plant-based burger over a meat burger or whatever. So it's kind of it's a term that's been around for a while, but it's really turned into this really important market for a lot of different brands, because I don't even remember the number now. It's something like $8 billion a year or something, like really wild, the plant-based market. And
wow.
It's certainly not vegans and not even vegetarians that are driving that growth. It's flexitarians.
Yeah, because
you got to figure
you all were the existing customer base. Like you were already
there. Yeah, we've
there.
been there.
Yeah.
We've been buying veggie burgers all along, so we are not responsible for this like wild growth that has been seen in the market. I think in the U.S. it's still under 10% of the total U.S. population is vegetarian, and they don't even have data on vegans right now. So we're kind of folded into that less than 10%. So you have to figure, for years, however, myself, it's been, like however many years, and a lot of my friends, it's been 20 years of like, we've all been buying these products all along. And so it wasn't until there was this tipping point where the flexitarians came in, we were starting to get like that 90% of people that don't identify as plant-based eaters kind of starting to dabble. And now there's just been this explosion.
Man, that's great. So that brings up an interesting point we didn't touch on. We touched on it in episode 3, and let's touch on it now. You talk about, Midwest origin, Midwest mom tacos, like that. How does Natalie Slater Midwest with Midwest mom tacos go that route? What was the moment that happened for you?
Well, for me, it was actually the intersection of straight edge and veganism is like the way that they came together in the music scene that I was involved in as a teenager. So I was listening to hardcore. I kind of got into like New York hardcore. So it was like a lot of tough guy stuff. And then, because I did grow up in kind of a rural, not even a suburb of Chicago. It's a city that's like 45 minutes south of Chicago. I would go see any band that kind of fell under the general umbrella of a punk or hardcore band, I would go see. So I ended up seeing a lot of straight edge bands, and because of that, a lot of like vegan bands, which when I was going to see them, I didn't know that they were vegan, but I liked the music, and then I would end up like listening to the lyrics or like learning more about what they were all about. And oftentimes those shows were actually in Krishna temples. So
really,
yeah. So like the temple would make everybody like a big vegetarian meal. So you would like watch 5 bands and then go eat like a free buffet and get a pamphlet about like vegetarianism and Krishna, and like that's how I got into it. I was a vegetarian first, and then not too long after that, I just kind of learned more about the other animal agriculture industries. I learned more about like how milk really got kind of in my fridge, and like what was involved in egg production, and a lot of my friends were going vegan, and so it was just kind of like, oh, I'm just going to go for it.
Yeah.
And, but it was really all because of the music I was listening to.
Awesome. And I mean, you know, it's funny how music drives things like that because, you know, while certainly not hardcore by any means, there's a certain man that I have a massive man crush on, goes by the name of Morrissey, who represents the vegan lifestyle very well. True story, I discovered Morrissey late in life. We had just bought our timeshare in Mexico, and I turned on late night Mexican music television, and here was this handsome, devilishly handsome, charming man singing, crooning from Earl's Court. And I went, holy shit, I need this in my life. Fast forward, every album I own. And, you know, while I'm still not there, you know, Meat is Murder, all the activism that he does, it definitely made me take a second look. So it's funny.
Yeah.
I mean, not funny, ha, but it's funny how music as a vehicle can give us pause to reevaluate those choices.
And I mean, to your wife's point now, you know, now that veganism has kind of, you know, it's kind of, more of an environmental issue first for a lot of people, and they don't get the animal rights part of it maybe until later. It's become really popular with musicians and with actors, and so like it's reaching all these people who never ever in a million years would have gone to a hardcore show in a Krishna temple, but they're listening to Billie Eilish, and Billie Eilish is vegan. Yep. And they're like going to see the Joker, and Joaquin Phoenix is vegan, and like, you know, like it's kind of permeated the culture. Even like Beyonce eats plant-based, and most people that like Beyonce like know that about her. So it's definitely even in the last couple of years, just like it's crossed like all the barriers.
Yeah, and I mean, as a food media guy, I started watching the web series Hot Ones with Shawn, I forget his name. And I won't say any more, repeatedly amazed, but I was initially amazed at the amount of, you know, folks who were doing the tofu wings.
Yeah.
You know? And it was, you know, Billie Eilish was one of the more notable ones. I went, oh, no shit. Okay, they're doing that. Then like 2 episodes later, I'm like, holy shit, another one.
My husband watches that. I've never seen it. He was just telling me how now he feels like more often than not people are eating vegan wings on that show.
Yes. You tell him I completely agree. And if I ever do a wing show, I'm going to have him on. That's my plan right there. And I'll have tofu wings for him.
Yeah. If you have a good Asian market, anywhere near you, check their freezer section for WAYYYY wings. Because that's wings. What most places that serve good vegan wings are using WAYYYY. That's my tip.
WAYYYY wings. You just got a free plug, WAYYYY. There you go. Yeah, and like, okay, so to dispel, I love the episodes where I re-interview because I don't have to go all back into the history. We can talk about pertinent shit. I love this. So like tofu is this elusive bullet for a lot of people, I think. Like my wife just tried to do, I forget what it was. It was something with tofu, and it was firm tofu, and it was from our local health food store. And it was supposed to be like crispy cubes done almost in a mapo tofu fashion, and it just didn't hit. Like, is there something specific we need to keep in mind when working with tofu to really give it its best chance to be amazing?
Well, it really depends on your you know, like what your personal preference is. But I think if you're looking for, if you like a firmer texture and you're looking for like kind of a more crispy tofu, you definitely want to invest the time in pressing all the water out. So the way I used to do it was like wrap it all up in towels and then stack all my cast iron skillets on top of it for like 20 minutes.
Okay.
But now I have a tofu press, which is basically a vise that I put the tofu in, and then I just crank it down and just torture all the water out of it in like 10 minutes.
Jesus, it's like S&M for bean curd. Okay, I got
you.
Yeah,
So that's really important. And then from there, I like my tofu to be kind of crispy on the outside, but still soft in the middle. So I usually just cube it up and just pan fry it in like really hot oil, or you can toss it in a mixture with like a little bit of cornstarch and whatever seasonings you like and fry it. But if you like it to be even more firm than that inside, I recommend cutting it up into cubes and then freezing it, and then frying it from frozen. It totally changes the texture to freeze it.
Look at the knowledge. 5 years later, you're still dropping knowledge left and right on me. I love it. I love it because we went so far.
I'm just glad anyone wants to talk about tofu.
And it's so funny because I remember going back again, 5 years. I went and I got a bag of kale chips for show prep. I'm like, all right, I got to do this. I got to try this. It's going to be awful. And I remember eating it going like, all right, it's cool, but I don't know if I can do it. And now I'm like, yeah, so Natalie, can you tell me what brand of tofu wings I should get? Because they're really, So like in just 5 short years, I think the market, the landscape, I wouldn't say that vegan is necessarily in vogue, but damn if it's not close.
Yeah, well, I think there's a meme I've seen before that said it's something like vegans are crazy until you become one, or something like that, or like
that's the truth.
It's like it seems. I remember the first vegan I ever heard of. I was probably 16 or 17, and there was a girl kind of in my same group of friends. Her name was Melissa, and someone told me she was a vegan, and I said, "A what now?" And they explained it to me, and I was like, "But what does she eat? I don't understand." And they're like, "Oh, like tofu and stuff," and I was just like, that is psychotic. Like, I remember really taking a hard stand, like, that girl is crazy, and I'm still in touch with her now, and it's really funny, it took me a while, but I came around, and now I can't imagine any other way. But
yeah,
it's definitely.
It's almost the same thing as saying, I know some Republicans, and some of them are assholes, and some of them, aren't, and like I know Democrats, and some of them are crazy, like way left leaning, and some of them, aren't, and like. Veganism, I've met my share of people who are just in your face about it. And then there's people like you who are like, yo, this is what I do. If you want to ask me questions about it, I'd love it. Otherwise, do your thing. Like, that's it's refreshing. And I hate to say this because it's going to put a timestamp on you and I, but I think that almost acceptance comes with age a little bit. I think when we're younger, a little bit of vinegar in our system, everyone's got to think the way we think. And now I just don't give a fuck. Well, if people want to follow me, they want to, they want to believe X, Y, and Z that I do, that's cool. And if you don't, that's fine. Just don't, push your shit on me. And
absolutely.
Because I think veganism in general gets a bad rap for that. And I'm here to stand up for it because I got one of the baddest ass vegans on the mic with me right now. So if anybody wants to step, she'll take care of you. I'll sit back and watch.
Yeah, it's like anything. It's, like when you learn something revolutionary for the first time and it just blows your mind, and you're like, like when I realized like that Christopher Columbus did not in fact discover America. Like, right? I was just like, what? My life's a lie.
What am I going to do that one day a year that we get off of school? Shit.
And you feel like everyone needs to know this. And it's like, that happened to me in a pre-internet age, really. Yeah. Like I had a live journal or something like that, but
shit.
there was no effective way for me to tell like everyone in the world just like my passion. And so I think I probably got a lot of that out of my system before it was traceable. And so I'm sure a lot of the people that are kind of going through that right now and just like, did you know like this about the environment? And did you know this happens to chickens? Like freaking out. It's because they just learned that they just relearned everything. Like, so, you know, but really publicly, because we don't have a chance to process things on our own anymore. So, you know, maybe I don't want to make excuses for obnoxious vegans, but that might be part of it, is just that it's like so easy to be obnoxious now because you have all these tools to do it.
No, you're spot on. You've got people who are going to take your back blindly. Like, whether or not you're an asshole, like in just as a person, you know, hey, if I'm backing this cause, I'm backing you. Yeah, it's this mob mentality. Whereas, like, you know, you and I both, I had a live journal. I think it's still out there somewhere, honestly. I got to go look for it later. You know, it wasn't this instantly, everyone's on the same page. Everyone's got a Facebook page already, like a Facebook group for newly discovered, you know, libertarian, vegan, proletariat for Christ, like all these weird shit, and everybody's all of a sudden a member. You know, so yeah, it's just it's cool to hear from one of the, you know, certainly not founding members, but I mean, truly and honestly, I hope you do embrace, at least to a certain extent, like your position in the landscape. It is significant.
You know what, I have to give credit, though, because there are two women who started like an online community called Post-Punk Kitchen. Mm-hmm. It was before my time. Like, it was, you know, like I started Bake and Destroy in 2006. Like, they were doing Post-Punk Kitchen, you know, maybe 3-4 years earlier than that. Mm-hmm. It's Isa Chandra Moskowitz. She also owns Modern Love in Brooklyn and in Omaha. It's like really amazing, like high-end vegan restaurant. Mm-hmm. And Carrie Hope Romero, who has written, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12 cookbooks at this point, but together, like, they started this website where people could trade. It was like a message board, basically, and people could trade vegan recipes, and then they dropped their first cookbook on the world, and I think the first cookbook might have been, I think it was Vegan with a Vengeance, but I mean, together they've written probably like, I don't know, 8 books, and then separately they've each written like 10 or 12 more books. They have just this massive library, but they were definitely ahead of me as far as like kind of crossing over, like not only kind of melding like the world of punk with the world of food, but also like taking something that already existed in our world. Like, one of my fondest memories of going to shows was that there was always a table set up by the merch that would be like a couple of hardcore girls with a zine that they made that had like vegan recipes in it. And I still have some of those. And like, they kind of took that like DIY, like punk rock, vegan, like that whole world that was existing that people didn't know about, and like put it on the internet and built this community. So if it wasn't for them, because I was like a quiet like lurker on those boards, like I would just read people's stuff and never talk to anyone. But if it wasn't for that, I don't think I ever would have like had the guts to try to do my version of that. Yeah. So I'm, you know, like they definitely are like, I've actually considered having prayer candles with their images made on them because of like how much they mean to me.
Dude, I will crowdfund the shit out of that. You tell me when and where, man. I am there.
I asked them permission.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, would it be okay if I grabbed a photo of you and did this? And Terry was like, yeah, if you want, like, that's fine.
God,
and
that
Isa was
so
like,
sick.
what? Eva was maybe a little more leery of like what kind of weird witchcraft I was going to do with her candle. But
yeah, it's not just a prayer candle. I'm going to put you on a doll. I'm going to roast you over instead.
Can you mail me some of your hair for the candle?
Three strands to be exact. Not 2, not 4, but 3. So, and then you went ahead, though, from this inspiration. Again, I'm not going to let you totally sidestep embracing where you are in the landscape. Good food for bad vegans is amazing. I think if you think otherwise, you're mistaken. And I think there's a shit ton of people who would argue with you if you didn't think it was amazing. You know, to make a vegan cookbook, and I mean, what was that? That was like 2012, 2013?
Yeah, I think it was like around 7 years ago.
Yeah. Again, outside of the resurgence, here you are publishing this book, and here we are riding the tide, you know, back into vegan. Not even necessarily back into vegan, but like vegan truly becoming societally not just acceptable, but accessible. That's the thing. I mean, you can go through, in Bloomsburg, PA, which is where we're at, you know, I can go into 2 of my local supermarkets, which right now they're a little picked thin. But sure. I can snag a straight vegan meal with no question mark. None. That's crazy because like we're not exactly bustling metropolis, like crazy upscale. We're just small town USA, and yet we have it. So I think that says something. And I've gotta not let you off the hook for this one, and then I want to talk about Upton's. You know, 5 years ago, we'll say it's approximately 2015, you dropped the bomb on me that Oreos were vegan. Now, since then, I have heard say that they're not and they are. So I'm going to leave it to you, truly my patron saint of veganism, which, listen, if you're making candles of them, I'm going to make a candle of you, sell it on the Coarse Grind site, and, you know, any vegan is going to snatch that up in a second. But I'm looking to you for the answer, for the final judgment. Are they or aren't they?
Oh, gosh.
Oh, shit. Here we go.
Right.
Pull up a chair, kids. It's going to get a little
complicated. It's a little complicated because, well, first of all, now there are a million kinds of Oreos.
All right, that's fair.
So
that's fair.
Not every one of them is going to be made with vegan, like fully vegan ingredients. For instance, a couple years ago, they did an Easter version. Mm-hmm. I think they might have even called it a Peeps version. And the sugar, there were little sugar crystals in it, and it was made with, I think it was confectioner's glaze, which is derived from a beetle. So it's an insect-based ingredient, confectioner's glazes.
Okay.
So, for instance, that particular flavor was not vegan. The other thing about Oreos that I didn't give any thought to 5 years ago that I think of more now is that the filling is primarily made from palm oil.
Yep.
And palm oil, while it is plant-derived and technically vegan, a lot of vegans try to stay away from it because of the impact that harvesting palm oil has on animals. And it wasn't anything that I knew about really a couple of years ago. And since then, I made friends with a guy from Photographers Without Borders who spent a lot of time in the Sumatra taking photographs of the effects of the palm oil industry on the rainforest and on the animals. And it's really devastating. You know, they burn down native trees to plant palms. Palms grow in Africa without all of this harm, but not enough to sustain the massive demand that there is for palm oil. So there is such a thing as like, okay, palm oil and even like the sustainable certified palm oil is kind of questionable. Like I tend to look for palm oil that's sourced in Africa if I like really have to have it for something. But that was a little bit of a tangent, but basically, you know, they burn down the forest and all the animals that are in the forest. It's not like they go around and evict all the monkeys from the trees. They just set the whole thing on fire.
5 minutes to fire.
You
Let's
know?
go, please. We're on set.
Yeah, like they don't relocate those animals.
No.
They set them on fire. And
Jesus
so
Christ.
there are really heartbreaking images of orangutans that are terribly burned, that don't have homes, that have been separated from their families, their food source is gone. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, because there are so many animals and other living creatures and even native plants in the rainforest that are just being decimated by the palm industry. So that's why, you know, a lot of ethical vegans, so vegans that are concerned more with, you know, animal rights than maybe the health benefits, for instance, of veganism, stay away from palm. So I definitely wouldn't, you know, it's not something that I wouldn't be one of the vegans in the comments, like telling another person that their Oreos aren't vegan. That wouldn't be me.
Right. You'd be one of the ones that were aware, however, of the underpinnings of what's going on. It's just
something I think it's fair to put out there. I think it's fair, like, for people to talk about it. I mean, people should talk about it. I don't think most people know anything about it, but I think that's, you know, it's definitely on the more extreme side of the spectrum where, and I also think that it's not really anybody's job to go around and certify others as vegan or not vegan. Like, right. I don't want that job. So I don't want to be the person who's deciding, like, if somebody's vegan enough. I think that's ridiculous.
Right. I've got my vegan meter. I'm going to hold it to your forehead. It will tell me how many things of animal origin and of potential animal concern you've come in contact with. You cannot.
I mean, because then you could really fall down a rabbit hole. You know what I mean? Like, you could really get into, like, well, how were your vegetables grown? If you're eating organic vegetables in particular, like, that's why there's even now there is, I don't know if you've heard the term veganic.
No,
but
I have not.
Organic farming uses a lot of runoff from factory farms as the fertilizer, and so, like, there's a heavy component of animal product involved in organic farming. So people have actually found ways to organically farm without using animal products, and so it's veganic.
Wow.
The first company I ever heard of using that was a company called 1 Degree. And they do grain products. They do, like, cereals and breads and things like that. And I remember, like, thinking it was, like, kooky. Like, you know, like 7 years ago reading that word and being like, that is insane. But, it, you know, like, if you're really going to, like, dig your heels in,
if you're going to be about it, then be about it,
Yeah.
I guess.
So, I mean, you could really drive yourself crazy trying to be a perfect vegan. I don't think that's a goal anybody should have.
No. And honestly, in response to veganic, I almost said no shit. And I'm like, wait a minute, Shawn, that's not funny. That's a dad joke on a vegan level right there. Like, you don't want to go there. But, like, it's so interesting to me as a flexitarian, as you termed it before, to sit here and listen, and this is proof, and I'm really hoping, like, honestly, I'm not out to change your lifestyle, Natalie's not out to change your lifestyle, but if you give a thought to it, shit, I mean, all the better for it. Just sitting here listening to you, you know, there are aspects of my culinary choices that, at the very least, come across my radar, and I'm like, well, maybe I should do something a little different there. You know, 1 day a week, 2 days a week, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, God, what an interesting, and just as a flash round, I want to throw some vegan topics out there and get your knee-jerk reaction to them. Because I'm sure you have them to this, and then I swear to God, Upton's. If you're waiting to hear about Upton's, we're gonna go there next. I promise you. The Impossible Whopper. Your reaction?
Yeah. I have really mixed feelings, actually, about the Impossible Whopper. I would say that on days when I am maybe in a good mood and am more happy about the greater good than I am about the details, then I'm thrilled with the success. Like every Impossible Whopper, every every time somebody is taking that option over a beef burger, then that's a win for the animals to me. Yeah. But there are definitely some things that keep me personally from being a customer. First and foremost is that they tested their kind of proprietary ingredient, heme, on rats. So
really,
that in and of itself, to me, makes it a non-vegan product. The ingredients are all plant-based, but for it to have been tested on animals, I'm not comfortable with it. You could argue, and I've had this argument with myself, that a lot of vegan products have been tested on animals historically. So it's not something that the FDA requires, but it's something that can fast track a product to market, and especially happens more often with ingredients, because being able to introduce a new ingredient to the market, it's far more profitable than introducing like a new finished product to market. So if you can say like, we developed a low calorie sugar replacement that doesn't have any aftertaste, and we want to start selling it to like every soda brand and every cookie brand, but the FDA isn't like satisfied with your 6 months worth of research that you've done. A way to fast track it is to do a series of animal tests, and then those test results will like fast track your product to market. So, I couldn't tell you by name like every ingredient that's ever been tested, but like you have to think historically, like probably pea protein at some point was tested, probably coconut oil at some point. Like, so it's like commonplace, and Impossible is certainly not the first company to ever do it. But I think that the way they have been embraced by vegans kind of surprises me, because they did take that step, and they also really don't seem to make much of an effort to position themselves as a vegan brand. I mean, they don't use the word anywhere in their marketing. They avoid vegan at all costs, and in fact, at a lot of trade shows, they sample their meat alternative with dairy. So they'll make a burger and they'll put dairy cheese on it. So, like, they're really not trying to be vegan.
Right.
So I guess it's like, in one respect, that's great for them because they've really won over flexitarians. But as a vegan, it's a little bit frustrating to see other vegans throwing their money at that brand, knowing that there are so many brands that are, in fact, vegan that they could be supporting instead, like Upton's, but also like Follow Your Heart and Tofurkey and, lots more.
That's awesome.
That was probably a really long gut reaction.
No. That's exactly what I was shooting for, honestly, because I had a feeling that, big corporate Burger King and, vegan vegetarian offering was going to stir some kind of like dual reaction, and you did not disappoint in the slightest. The other quick topic.
I can tell you that Upton we've had requests. We've had companies that wanted to use our products on, for instance, a frozen pizza that had dairy cheese on it. And our company founder is a vegan of like more than 25 years, and it just didn't sit right with him for his product to be incorporated into a final product that also contained animal ingredients. And so we passed on it, and that's not the first time, and it won't be the last time. We've had restaurants approach us, and I'm not saying that we would say no if like Taco Bell came to us and said, we want to use your chorizo seitan in our tacos. I can't say that we would turn that down, but it's definitely something that we've done. In the past, we've made those decisions just because like we are a truly vegan brand and just not comfortable with that.
That's awesome. Yeah, and again, it goes back to what you said. You know, if you're gonna be about it, be about it. Like don't half-ass it. Don't 3/4 ass it. Put the full ass in, and just you know, be about that.
Full ass or nothing.
Full ass or nothing. You heard it here. That's a new shirt. I'm gonna give you that one, Natalie. BaconDestroyer.com. Get the full ass or nothing shirt right now. Or at least in a week. I don't know. Our shirt shops open during this madness? I don't know. The other quick hits I had, actually one you already answered for me. Insect protein is becoming a bigger source of proteins, and just by your response regarding the crystal or not fondant, but what type of sugar was it that the beetles were a part of for the Oreo?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. So confectioner's glaze.
Confectioner's glaze. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So bug protein is also verboten in the vegan canon.
Yeah.
And honey, then by proxy, I imagine would be the same.
Yeah. I mean, honey is a funny one too. People who consider themselves plant-based, but don't necessarily consider themselves vegan. So maybe they still wear leather, or maybe, like whatever. They tend to incorporate honey into their diets as well. Mm-hmm. But most vegans don't use honey because it is, it does come from an insect, and it's, I've had like a lot of friends that keep bees, and they kind of argue like, my bees get treated like family, and it's like this big thing, and it's like, I have no doubt that you're treating your bees awesome, but it kind of goes back to like my fundamental belief that we don't need to harm other creatures. Yeah. Not even harm, like we don't need to bother them.
Yeah,
we can just leave them alone.
Yeah, because like I've milked a friggin' cow before, and look, I'm not like punching its teats. I was doing what I was shown so I didn't get kicked in the skull. I was treating that cow extremely well. She was happy. She was chewing her shit. But, like, do I need to bother that cow for that product? And that's a great question.
Yeah, and, the backyard excuse, it's one that people throw out a lot. Like, well, I keep bees and I'm nice to them. Or, like, I have chickens and they love me. Like, there's a lot of that, but it's like, there's a big difference between your 3 chickens that you have, or your one single, beehive, or like the one cow that you milked, and the animal agriculture complex, the factory farms. Like that is where food comes from. It's coming from factory farms. Milk is not coming from a cow that got pregnant and got to keep its calf, and just the extra milk is going to the farmer, and like the whole family loves the cow. Like that is not where milk is coming from. Milk is coming from this massive factory of cows that are repeatedly impregnated. Their calves are taken away. The males are put into veal crates. The females are put right back into the system. Their milk is taken from them with machines. They do it over and over and over again until they're too old to give, or their bodies are spent, and then they're sold for low-grade meat. And so a cow will live more than 20 years if you leave it alone, and a dairy cow lives 5 years.
Yeah.
Because she's hideously abused for her entire short life. So same thing with chickens. Like those battery farms are a far cry from like somebody that has a couple chickens in their yard and like takes those eggs. So,
yep.
Maybe if we do end up with the apocalypse happening and everybody does have like a little backyard farm, I'll change my viewpoints a little bit. But for now, the way that the world is supplied with these products is, really entails quite a bit of cruelty. And so that's something people bring up a lot to me, and it's like you have to understand that like that is not the reality though for most of these animals.
Right. And I think it's that simple. Again, Natalie's not here to tell you how to do, how to live, how to whatever, but Natalie's here to make you think. And it's as simple as that. Again, we got our shit out during the days of LiveJournal. If you go back and you find it, good luck figuring out my screen name. Probably the same thing for hers. It's out there somewhere.
Oh, somewhere there's a letter to the editor of the local newspaper where I'm, like, demanding that the zoo, like, show children the realities of of like a factory dairy farm, because they had just installed like a where dairy comes from thing, and it's like, yeah, you could find a lot of old militant stuff on me if I had left any trace, but luckily that was all before.
Yep.
before.
Yeah, my dumb choices were far before that period of time, so that's a good
Thank
thing
goodness.
for everyone involved.
Yeah.
So vegan and Natalie and all these awesome things and bacondestroy.com lead us to your present gig, which is as the director of marketing, Miss Fancy Pants, of Upton's Naturals. And a little bit of homework that I did, again, vegan couple, great vision, all vegan products, started with the seitan, I believe.
Yes.
And
yeah.
How did you insert yourself into Upton's Naturals, and where is it going with you at the helm of marketing?
Sure. Well, you're not going to believe this, but the vice president of the company, Nicole Sopko, and I actually met in the 90s on a message board called Girls with X's on Their Hands. It was a message board for straight edge girls.
That's awesome.
And, I really don't even, I doubt Nicole remembers either. I don't remember what we ever talked about, but she grew up outside of Detroit. I grew up outside of Chicago. So we were both like Midwestern teenage girls that were into hardcore and straight edge and veganism and stuff. And so we just kind of chatted on there, and, fast forward 10 years later, and everybody's on MySpace, and then later everybody's on Facebook, and we found each other again. And she was, had just moved to Chicago, and she had just started, she moved to Chicago, and I think she was working in the publishing industry. And, I ended up, I remember this, it's a really weird way of us finding each other again. But when I was pregnant with my son, so 14 years ago, we had heard that somebody was starting a seitan company in Chicago, and that their whole plan was to make it and slice it like deli meat and sell it to restaurants. And my husband and I were both like, that's brilliant. I would love to go to a vegan deli. That's an incredible idea. So weirdly enough, I find Nicole again, and she happens to be dating the guy who's doing this. He's starting this company, and he started out selling, he sold to a couple of restaurants, and pretty quickly after he made his first product, he sold it to Whole Foods, and it was selling in all the Whole Foods Midwest stores, which I think at the time might have been 40 or 50 stores. Now I think there's 70 stores in that region, but he was making Italian style seitan, and you could get it in a tub with the broth, like a good Italian Italian beef sandwich that you get in Chicago with Jardiniere.
Damn.
So yeah, it's just really weird, kind of childhood internet friends, and she's dating this vegan guy who starts a company. So we're friends, and we, I kind of, I'd meet Dan here and there, we'd see each other places, and he, chit chat a little bit, whatever. Mm-hmm. But, his company was flourishing. So they do the seitan. That's really that business grows and grows. They introduce, the first preseason jackfruit into the market. And so they take this really interesting new trendy ingredient, and they make it really, really easy for people to make at home. Mm-hmm. And so that really grew the company enormously. And then they've just been introducing new products ever since. And a couple years ago, I was working for a snack brand as their marketing manager, and they were positioning the company for acquisition. So I was kind of looking for what my next step was going to be. And Nicole happened to just chat me on Facebook and say, hey, if you know anyone who might be a good fit, we're looking for somebody to head up marketing. The person that we work with right now is a Venezuelan citizen, and this is like pretty shortly after the election, and she was getting deported. So she's like, our marketing manager is getting deported. Like, if you know anybody, put them in touch. So I had lunch with Nicole and was like, look, I'm actually interested in this, but we're friends and I want us to stay friends, and I don't want like us working together to be weird, or like, I don't want you to feel like you can't tell me what you really think, or that we can't like be professional because we all have this long history of being friends. She was like, I really don't think that would be a problem, and I think you'd be a really good fit, and I travel with the person in this position a lot, and I would be happy to travel with you. So I started about a month after we had that conversation, and it's just been like such an amazing fit for me to just be, you know, not only is it a vegan company, so like literally, like when I go to work, I'm in my own way, like I'm still able to be an activist. Like when I'm sitting at my computer and I'm typing up things and I'm like deciding what's going to be on our packaging and whatever, buying ads and things like that, like I'm promoting animal rights and compassion for animals, and it's just like the best feeling. And the things I'm able to do there are really fun, and I've gotten to go to a lot of really interesting places because we're a global brand, so I get to travel and kind of see what the vegan scene is like in other countries. And Dan is also straight edge, so it's Upton's is owned by a vegan straight edge guy. It's like a perfect fit. And just everybody I work with in the office is vegan. A lot of people, like my husband's actually the head of production now, so
oh no shit!
got a
all
vegan
right, so you're
there.
all kind of in it together. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really great. It's like I feel like everything I've been doing as far as like, you know, like getting like deeper and deeper into like veganism and just like social media and everything with the book and like all the connections I've made over the years, like it all kind of was like leading to this, because now I have all these resources and like people I can reach out to do collaborations or to ask questions or like plan a tour with them, or, you know, it's just like, it's all been like pointing towards this.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. Wow. Well, you can't write a story like that, really. It just, I think it actually just has to happen, and here you are making it happen with Upton's. Folks, if you're looking to see Upton's Naturals product lines and so on, they're at uptonsnaturals.com. Definitely check out their story. It's super, super interesting. You know, and again, to parallel it with Natalie's story, like I think it's just, you know, folks that float together end up floating together downstream. Again, it's funny you bring up about the internet board. Funny thing, and hello in advance to the fans who followed me from Iron Fans Online. At one point in time, I was the world's leading poster on the only acknowledged Iron Chef Japan fan site. I had the leading count. I have autographed posters from all 4 of the final Iron Chefs. I've met 2 of them in person. I love the show dearly, and so crazy that would have been about when was I working with that? Like 2003, 2004. The site was starting to wrap, and all of a sudden I start up this show, and out of the woodwork come 2 or 3 of the more frequent posters, and they're like, "Are you Ross Daddy from Iron Fans?" I'm like, "Holy shit, who are you? Oh my god!" And you know, it never goes away. So I don't know, Natalie. I think you and I dodged a bullet on, you know, me anyway, in my fraternity letters, doing a keg stand or something, coming up in a job interview. You know, I don't have those floating out there, but apparently we still have some impact out in the great ether that is the interwebs.
I think it's a really good lesson to just be kind to everyone you meet. Just try to be cool to everyone, because you never know, like, what if I'd met Nicole on that message board and been a dick?
Yep.
Then 20 years later, when I really want to work for this company and I really want to do this work, she would be like, no. You were a rude 17-year-old.
Yeah. Yo, Natalie tried to slash my tires. Get her out of here. I don't want to deal with her.
Yeah. I mean, maybe be kind to everyone because you never know if you'll need something from them in the future. Maybe not like the official Mr. Rogers like viewpoint, but you never know.
Not that totally would know, underlying motives. Listen, you got to have some motives, but I'll tell you, funny story too. A job. I'm actually leaving a job right now to go to a new one. But the job that I had gotten was because of a networked contact I stayed in contact with after working with him. What'd I figure out? 16 years prior. And we didn't talk for 16 years.
Yeah.
And out of friggin' nowhere, I had a job. So there you go. Be cool, be accessible, don't be a dick. No matter what you do.
There's actually another, now that we're talking about it, another layer of this is that the HR person who did Nicole wanted me to go through a normal interview process and not have it just be like, I'm going to hire my friend for this.
Yeah.
So, so I applied and the HR person called me and I did the initial screen phone call with her. And then later, after I'd gotten hired and everything was done, the HR person was like, hey, so funny story. My husband knows you. Do you know Adam, who used to own Atomics? And Atomics is this coffee shop in Chicago that I went to almost every day, 20 years ago because they had vegan waffles and it was really cheap.
Nice.
And I was like, you're kidding. Adam, oh my God, he fed me every day when I was a little baby vegan who just moved to Chicago. And she's like, yeah, he told me that. You used to come in and he said you were always sweet and he really hoped you got the job. And I was just like, how funny. So yeah, luckily I was nice to the guy making my waffles and nice to the girl that I met on the, on the message board because there were definitely a lot of opportunities for people who had a bad taste in their mouth about me to prevent me from getting the job that I love. So it all worked out.
That's so crazy. And, looking at Upton's, I think before we jumped on mic, you had mentioned you've got some new things coming down the hallway. Not to turn it into work here for you, Natalie, but, you've got the mic. Go nuts. I think you said 4, 5, 6 new products going on?
We have 6 new products. So actually, a perfect example of kind of how I've had people ask me before, how do Bake and Destroy and Upton work? Do you, do you use them together? Do you keep them separate? Is your boss okay with you doing Bake and Destroy and having such a strong personality that's associated with the brand? And so a really great example of how they work together is actually one of our new products, which is a vegan hot dog called Updog. So
What's up, dog?
The office fans out there.
Yeah.
Not much. What's up with you?
All right, here you go. So I grew up right around Scranton. Just fun little fact.
Wow.
So the What's Up dog, as soon as you said that, and admittedly I saw it on the I think it was an Instagram post on the site for Upton's. I'm like, no shit, there's another tie-in because I grew up literally...
Yeah, actually, if you look, there's a picture of me wearing a sweatshirt that says, What's Up, dog, holding an up dog.
Classic.
So that came out of me on Bake and Destroy one night being like, okay, guys, we got bleeding burgers. We got steaks made out of mushrooms. We got just egg. We have so many things. What is left? What do you either wish existed as a vegan product, or what vegan product do you think still has a lot of room for improvement? And the answers just came pouring in, frozen pizza, there's no good vegan frozen pizza, and this and that, but overwhelmingly people said hot dogs. So there's a legacy brand. so there's a couple legacy brands actually that make them. So there's Light Life. They've been making Smart Dogs for like 20 years. Mm-hmm. There's Loma Linda. They have a vegan hot dog that comes in a can full of water. It's pretty weird. They're like, and then like there's newer, like kind of more new ones, like Field Roast makes a Frankfurter that is seitan just kind of rolled into a hot dog shape. So it's like, it's fine, but it's not really a hot dog. Like, especially in Chicago where hot dogs are like serious, like we're very serious about them. Mm-hmm. What's always been missing from that is like the snap when you bite into like a Vienna beef hot dog.
Yeah, like the chasing action, definitely. Yeah,
and then like the interior, like it can't be super mushy like the tofu pups, sure. But it also can't be like really dense and seitan-y like some of the other ones. So when I got this feedback, just out of my own personal curiosity, I was wondering what people thought. When I got this feedback, I sent it to Dan, the owner of the company, and was like, we got to make a hot dog. And he, you know, he watches my story, so he was seeing like me post all these answers. And so we have a food scientist on staff. And so like Dan went to Rich and was like, I need you to work on a hot dog. And this was, I think, over the summer. So, you know, Rich kind of starts with the flavor and then kind of figures everything out backwards from there. We have a really strict set of rules about ingredients. So we never use any added flavors or colors, whether they're natural or not. And there's a couple other things, like we try to stay away from nuts and coconut because Nicole is allergic to them and we want her to be able to eat all of our products.
Oh, nice.
So
okay.
Some of our things do have those in them, but we try to stay away. So anyway, Rich got to work and we ate so many freaking hot dogs until we finally landed on the Up Dog, and it's really exciting. It's the first product that Upton's has rolled out that I feel like really personally involved in. So it's going to be in Whole Foods Midwest, and there's one other retailer that I don't know if I can talk about yet, but they kind of cover a lot of the rest of the map. So it'll be pretty widely available in a few months. And I think once people get their hands on it, then the demand will kind of spread from there. But so that's number one. And this is kind of a good example of how like something that like comes from like Bake and Destroy can like kind of bleed over into my work. Yeah. And then we're also doing, we're doing another version of our jackfruit, which is kind of like one of our best selling products. We're doing Banana Blossom. I don't know if have you ever played with Banana Blossom?
I have not played with it.
It's pretty amazing. It's literally the flower that grows on a banana tree. It's like this big purple kind of teardrop shaped flower, and the petals are packed really tightly together. So when you like cut it in half lengthwise and open it up, it looks really similar to a piece of white fish. Mm-hmm. Like it looks like that same like really tight layers of like flaky like fish, but it's flower petals. So people have been cooking with Banana Blossom in like Southeast Asian countries forever. Like it goes in stir fries, it goes in all kinds of things, but Westerners that cook with it tend to use it as a fish alternative. So you can like batter and deep fry it, and it's like having a fillet of fish. So you can get it right now in a can, mm-hmm. but it's in water. And so when you open the can up, usually by the time you get it from Sri Lanka or Thailand or like wherever it's coming from, it's had the shit shook out of it. So it's like all broken and really waterlogged, and you kind of have to put it all together again to like make a nice piece out of it. So ours are cut into quarters, and we're packing it in a retort pouch, so it's not coming in a bunch of water, which is awesome because then it's not getting waterlogged, but also nice for the environment that we're not shipping like heavy cans of water from Asia like all over the world. Right. But I think it's really interesting. I think that it might take a little bit of time. I don't expect that to be like the product that really makes 2020 a great year for us. Like, I think that's going to be the up dog. But I think it's interesting. I think people who love to cook are going to like playing with it. And our plan is to get it into food service and kind of let chefs do some of that marketing work for us.
Nice.
So if you go to a restaurant and you have an amazing banana blossom dish and then you see it on the shelf at Whole Foods, like, you're going to know what it is. So hopefully that works out. And then we're doing a line of canned soups. So that one we actually haven't officially announced yet, but it's not exactly a secret. But we're doing 3 different canned soups. So that's really exciting because a lot of the vegan canned soups that are out there are not really very great. And I personally made these. So I'm the one who made the soups that we sent to Whole Foods for them to taste and approve.
Nice.
And so it's another one that I feel like my stamp is on that I'm really excited about.
Nice. Man, you are all over the place.
I mean, it's blue sky, right? Like, that's kind of the approach. Like,
Yeah.
I've talked to, like, our friends at Follow Your Heart. They sort of have the same approach. Like, their primary business is dairy alternatives. Like, they really do a lot of cheeses. And everybody right now is doing, like, these, like, artisanal cheeses and cheese wheels and, like, fermented, like, cream cheeses and whatever. And they're like, guess what? We did American-style slices. Yeah, just like Kraft. So,
Yo!
what? And they're amazing. They're so good. And they're just kind of like, where can we go that no one's going? Like, what can we think about that no one's thinking about yet? And just kind of like, that's what we try to do too. Like, none of the other vegan brands or meat alternative brands are doing, like, they're not doing a canned soup. Nobody's doing fish alternatives. Like, there's like Good Catch doing like a tuna alternative, but nobody's thinking about, like, how can we replicate, like, you know, like a fish and chip style fish, and especially with simple ingredients. That's the other thing that is a challenge, but also is like really gratifying to me, is that we're not like in a lab with like a $25 million investment from some creepy company, like inventing like a weird, like how can we make it bleed? Or like, we're not doing that. Like, we're like, how can we make this out of a vegetable? How can we make that, like,
how can you make it just taste good, you know, in addition to that? That's so
This is
rad.
a literal flower.
Yeah, yeah.
This is a literal piece of fruit. Like, this is made from wheat and water and soy sauce. So that part of it is really cool too. Is like, you know, I think it's fascinating, like the food science that goes into like the really techy, you know, like the egg substitutes and like the things that are like really, those are all really fascinating, and I'm interested in it. But when it comes to like what I actually want to eat, it's like, I want it to be food.
Yeah. I mean, that just makes sense. You know, I want to make my kid a grilled cheese, and this gets into, you know, maybe making the kids be early adopters of it, because you can make them the grilled cheese with the American style slices on, you know, friggin' bread. Like, I never grew up with grilled cheeses. I've become a late in life fan of them. I'll admit that. I'm fat and awful. It's terrible. But I love them. I'll nosh the shit out of it. But like, knowing there's an option for that there, like, I don't know. I would absolutely see. I'd be more inclined to try a grilled cheese with a vegan American slice on it than I would say, you know, admittedly, maybe like a full-on fish substitution. Like, start me in the shallow end of the pool. Don't expect me to do the breaststroke in 25 seconds.
Sure.
Let me doggy paddle for a little bit. And I think that's probably the case with most folks novel to the arena.
I think so too. I mean, I think a lot of people who, you know, I've met a lot of people that are like, what cheese do you eat? Because I tried vegan cheese and it was gross. Like, well, first of all, there are so many and they're so different. That would like, I mean, that, like, if you asked that question and you just took the word vegan out, that question would be hard to answer too. Like, what cheese do you like?
Well, yeah, because there's shitty American slices now. Like, on the dairy side of it, dude, the plastic wrapped nonsense bullshit that I grew up with, no wonder I didn't like grilled cheeses. My mom would be like, "Oh, this will be good. I'll put it in the broiler. It'll be awesome." I hated it. And my wife introduced me to this Cooper Sharp American, a little bit, a little bit more of an aging process, a little bit more of the tang to it. I'm like, wait a minute, this is American too? She's like, yeah, it's American. And then I'm like, wait a minute, So my mom referred to American cheese as the shit that was wrapped in plastic. Like, that was all I knew it as. So it sounds like vegan cheese is the same thing.
It's the same thing, because you can, in Chicago, we have a cheesemaker here named Megan. Her company is Cheese and Thank You. And it's all vegan, and she does incredible, like, her cheese rounds are, like, wax dipped. She even did vegan Baby Bells. Like, she's amazing. And she does, everything's really artisan, and her flavors are, like, really creative. Like, she'll do, like, a wasabi and, like, caramelized onion cheese, and just, like, it's like super creative. If that's your first cheese and that's not your jam, like, if you like American slices and your first vegan cheese is like a wheel of wasabi cheese that's been aged for 4 months, like, you're not going to like it. I guess my advice is, like, try a different one. Like, when people say that to me, like, I didn't like it, I'm like, well, what was it? First of all, 9 times out of 10, it was Daya, which is not the best vegan cheese.
Oh,
it's
shit.
The most
Shots fired. Blah, blah,
they
blah.
have it everywhere.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's not gross. Like, I've had gross vegan cheese. It's not that. It's fine. I actually had it today because the pizza place that my son really likes, that's the cheese they use, is Daya. So it's like, it's fine. It does the trick. But, like, a lot of people, especially if they're transitioning from dairy to that, like, that's not the one. So just try, you're going to have to kiss a few frogs, like, until you find the thing you really like. But I don't know. There's so many, like, that's the great part is that there's so many. If you don't like one, you're sure to like a different one.
Yeah, it's a process. And again, in this age of accessibility, in this age of, not quite en vogue, but getting damn close, I think you've got options where you didn't have them before. I'm sure you can remember a time where there was, like, one brand, maybe two, and now it almost feels limitless, at least from my chair.
Yeah, all the cheese of my youth was, like, it was, like, nutritional yeast mixed with water and, like, mustard and onion powder, which is still my favorite cheese, but it's, like, it's come a long way since
Nice.
then.
Nice. So all that is available. Upton's Naturals, worldwide company. Check them out. I believe you said they're Chicago-based?
Yeah.
Yeah, Chicago-based, and yet you can get them anywhere. You can probably go on their site, and if not order, you can find out where to buy. I'm looking at it right now, where to buy. And it's not just the U.S. people. It's Australia, New Zealand, the EU, and Canada. So it's all over the place. Definitely check them out. Natalie brought her brilliance over to an already brilliant organization. So you're not going to be wanting for a goddamn thing. Be sure to check them out. Follow them on the Facebook, the Insta, the Twitter, and everything. We'll cover all those in plugs. Let's transition on our way out, because I have kept you for far too long, and I feel guilty, and yet I feel absolutely spoiled and appreciate it, and we'll revel in it later. I want to transition into afters, couple irreverent questions, a little bit off the cuff. No one's been injured in 121 episodes. Hopefully it doesn't happen tonight. Right. So here we go. And again, the ulterior motive I have here is that actually 5 years ago, and I remember it, your answer to this question gave me a couple additions to my lifting mix, and I could not wait to ask you this shit again.
Okay.
I'm standing in your kitchen. What music do I hear?
Lately, I've been listening to a band called Twin Temple.
Okay.
They are a satanic doo-wop band. And They're amazing.
What? I love it.
Yeah, they're incredible. I got to see them live a few months ago, and their stage show is just like, there's like a full-on ritual with like spitting blood, and there's daggers, and they, it's just really great. It's like, I would say it's satanic doo-wop, that's like overarching what they are, but if you really get into like listening to their song lyrics, it's super feminist also. So I definitely recommend checking them out.
All right, I'm gonna check them out. Twin Temple and Greta, my wife. If you're listening to this, if you see Twin Temple come up in your iTunes, it was me. Okay, it wasn't the kids. Don't blame them. It was me. You can blame that one on me.
She sees a song called Lucifer, My Love.
Jesus, this is gonna get deep. All right, Ani, I'm sorry in advance if you're listening. Next after question, I'm gonna strand you on a deserted island, and you can only take 3 foods or food type items with you, condiments, beverages, and so on. Limitless supply, but only 3. What would they be and why?
Okay, it would be nutritional yeast, as I already mentioned, my most used and beloved ingredient. El Milagro tortilla chips, an endless supply. It's a Chicago brand. Everybody here is obsessed with them. And black olives, because then I could eat nachos for all of eternity.
Nice. Oh, she's not playing. She's like, for all of eternity. All of a sudden, she got all immortal and shit.
Well, I'm not going to die there.
I love it. Yes. Oh, my God. Awesome. Have you had the chance to check out My Last Supper by Melanie Denea?
No.
It is a fabulous coffee table book, photo book, with some verbiage. Basically, the book is centered on 50 world famous chefs and one picture. Melanie Denea is a world class photographer, and it's the one. I don't know if you've ever seen it. Tony Bourdain has what I believe is a beef shank hanging between his legs, and he's butt-ass naked.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
So she's the one that did that one, and other food photographs like it. So she created a book. She created a follow-up to it, The Next Course. Same concept, 50 world-famous chefs in each. And they're all asked the same question, and I love this question. Your ticket's getting punched tomorrow. What's your last meal? Who's going to be there with you? What music is playing? Paint the scene for me.
Okay. Well, my grandma's spaghetti.
Nice.
It's my favorite food. I don't know what she does to it. She's given me her recipe. I can't replicate it. It's just perfect. So that would be the last thing. If I had to choose the last thing I ever eat, it would be that.
Nice.
Obviously she's there because she has to make it, and also she's the funniest person on the planet. So that's who I'd want to be spending my time with.
Awesome.
And my husband and my son.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really think there's anybody else I need besides those 3 people.
Awesome.
And since we're at my grandma's house, probably like Frank Sinatra is playing.
I figured it wasn't going to be satanic doo-wop. I put that out there.
She's the boss.
Awesome.
She's the boss. So whatever she wants. Maybe it might be Kenny Rogers, but I hope it's Frank Sinatra.
In comparison between the two, I would hope the same for you, for your sake.
Yeah.
I mean, it is your last night, so I think she'd probably give you that. And finally, Natalie, simplest question, most complex. What is food to you in a single word?
Comfort.
Love it. And that's actually the same thing you said 5 years ago. Real talk. I checked it earlier.
Change.
Comfort, and it's such a true answer. It's such a solid response. You know, if not comfort, then why?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Well, Natalie Slater of BaconDestroy.com, Director of Marketing for Upton's Naturals. Again, you can find them online at uptonsnaturals.com. And total other side note, which we didn't touch on, but listen, if you're looking to send some of that extra virus stim money to a good cause, you need to check out grindforlife.org. I had heard of it before, and what'd you say, Natalie? You've been doing a birthday thing for them for 9 years, 10 years, or?
Yeah, I think this upcoming birthday should be my 10th year doing it. So I asked people leading up to my birthday, it started out as my friends and my family, like, hey, if you were going to get me anything, like, just donate to Grind for Life. And it just turned into, like, total strangers making donations. And I've been able to raise over $20,000 for them. And I really like what they do. And they've given back to a lot of people I know. So I really think they're cool.
Yeah, such a fantastic cause. Again, they help out with the travel costs associated with cancer treatments. And, again, just further proof that just because we got a little ink or we ride on 4 wheels with a helmet on, we are amazing human beings, and skaters are no different. Check out Grind for Life at grindforlife.org. Make a donation. I know you're going to have one pseudo friend in me sending an extra donation this year, Nat. So, again, I can't thank you enough for making the time, for teaching me flexitarians. I'm going to wield that like a fucking sword now. I'm gonna be like, hey, guess what?
Own it.
I'm a flexitarian, and then I'll obnoxiously flex to my kids' friends, and they're gonna hate it. They're gonna hate it.
That'll go over well.
Total dad joke. Total dad joke. And my 12-year-old just leaned back from his chair playing Terraria, and he goes, "I swear to God, I'll kill you." So now it has to happen. Oh, kill Gollum. Okay. But, again, Natalie, I cannot thank you enough for being here again, and it just means the world to have you, both as, a colleague here on the show, friend of the show, and, again, I hope to have you back, maybe not in 5 years from now, but maybe sooner than that. But, again, thanks for making the time to be on.
Thank you for having me back.
You got it. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode number 122 of the Coarse Grind Podcast. With me this evening, once again, the incomparable, the absolute icon in the vegan community, Natalie Slater. Our producer, as always this evening, has been Johnny Leland Robinson, a.k.a. the Reverend Johnny Lamoria. Be sure to check out his podcast, Cinematic Pig's Feet, as I make a guest appearance as co-host on the episode where we dissect the film Aria. Not a Russian art film, but damn close if you ask me. And next episode, we're going to be keeping things natural. Be sure to stay tuned. Are you passing through central Pennsylvania and looking for one of the best dining experiences and craft brew menus around? Look no further. Turkey Hill Brewing Company and 991 Central Road in Bloomsburg, PA has everything you could ask for and then some. Service, food, beer together. Unbelievable. Be sure to check them out. Call them today for reservations. 570-387-8422. Call today.